You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. What's up, friends? Welcome to today's episode. Today, I wanted to share something that I've been reading about that really inspired me and kind of reminded me that there's value in even the tiniest improvements and growth. Because how often do you feel like when you want to grow or evolve or, improve something in your life, whether it's your health, your relationships, or your finances, or any other area, that you either have to make these really big overhauls and really big changes, and it can feel kind of overwhelming and defeating before you even get started? Or do you get going and you feel like the changes are not that noticeable, and so they're not motivating enough to continue with? That's something that I've experienced, and I feel like it's a major roadblock for anyone, whether they're, trying to achieve a health goal or just change something in their life in any area, really, like career, anything. So what I was reminded of this week, and I hope it offers you some encouragement as well, is how powerful even 1% improvements can be. All right? So here's an illustration that really helped me, is to think of it like a plane. If you are flying in the air, you are reading your magazine, maybe you've got your plane snacks or you're working on your laptop, and that pilot adjusts the flight path by 1%, you don't really feel the difference, right? You don't notice it. You're just cruising along, doing your thing for the duration of the flight. But that 1% difference is going to land you in a completely different city than you intended to end up in after a few hours. I first heard that in this book called Atomic Habits, which just talks about these incremental habit gains that you can incorporate in your life. But doesn't that kind of show you that's a great picture of, oh, yeah, actually, okay, 1% can measurably make a difference. Another place that I recently heard an example and kind of gives you another visual is in Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within. And he talked about a basketball team where the coaches set out to help the players make 1% improvement in the 5 core areas of basketball. I'm not a big basketball person. I don't really know sports that well, so I can't tell you what the areas are, but I got the gist of it, that 1% improvement for each player in just the 5 main parts of the game. Doesn't even seem like that much, right? But what they calculated was if every player mastered that, that would lead to a 60% improvement for the entire team. And what they found after this experiment and after measuring this is that most players improved 5 to 50%. They ended up having an amazing season, all because each player just felt like, can I tackle 1%? And they knew it would make a difference for the overall team. So what I share there is just don't underestimate the compound efforts. 1% may feel almost laughable or not even worth pursuing, but over time, and compounded maybe even with other people, it can make a really big difference. There's actually a Japanese word for this called kaizen, and it means continuous improvement. There's not really a word like this in the English dictionary that I know of, or yet, but I thought that was really cool how the Japanese actually have a word for this, and that it just means to continuously improve, right? Like it doesn't have to be these massive efforts. It just means a little bit day after day, and that makes a difference. Another interesting thing about this from a biological perspective is with every enforcement of a new behavior, every single time you do something, a neural strand of your brain grows. Isn't that interesting? So think about that. Every single time that you practice a habit or you say something or you don't say something, you actually grow a strand physically in your brain representing that behavior. So you really cannot feel anymore that drinking that extra glass of water or going on that walk or calling your mother or telling yourself something positive or feeling gratitude first thing in the morning, that those don't have an impact. They biologically do in your brain. What's also interesting is that stopping a behavior actually begins to weaken the neural connection. It physically starts to shrink because those neural strands aren't growing and wiring together and creating a groove in your brain. Isn't that interesting? So to me, that was just really encouraging to think about it. I might not see a difference in the mirror. I might not see a difference in my, bank account. I might not hear of any of my friends saying they notice a difference when I'm making these changes in my life. However, anytime you do practice a new habit or a new behavior, there's evidence in your body and your brain that you've done it. So physically, it's there. All right. And it's also physically reflected if you stop doing a bad habit. I just think that's so, so cool. So how can you improve 1%? Like, what are some examples? So I think the great part about this, and the hard part too when I was coming up with these, is really keeping it to 1% is kind of challenging, but it makes it fun because you still get to check that box. And if you're a list person like I am, it's really satisfying to check a box, especially for like a little thing. I was talking about this with a girlfriend the other day, but we'll even like write down a little errand on our to-do list, even if we've done it, just to be able to cross it off. So it's kind of that same principle if you like that. So let's say health is your area. Improving by 1%, if you are currently walking like 5,000 steps a day, maybe you increase it by just 50 steps. 50 steps I can do walking across my like condo. It's not too crazy, but that little bit starts to add up. And once you get used to that, you can increase another 50. And before you know it, you're going to just be a walking machine. Your body will notice the difference. Maybe you drink one extra glass of water. Maybe you have one extra serving of veggies a day. Maybe you even just trade out one meal that's more meat-based once a week for something that's veggies. Maybe you do a plank for even just 1 minute. Maybe you're watching TV and it's on a commercial break. You will feel that 1 minute plank though. Even though it's 1 minute of your life, anyone can do 1 minute of their life, you'll feel the difference in that plank and you will see your core suck in too. I mean, that is a good way to get, some bang for your buck with if you can do something in 1 minute. If you are more thinking of ways to improve a relationship, maybe you try and do one kind thing intentionally for your partner that day. Obviously, you want, to be kind as much as possible, but just the focus of what's one thing I can do today that would really make them smile, or maybe it's one compliment a day. Maybe you leave like a sticky note once a week, like a little love note. Maybe you give an old friend a call once a week. That's your thing. And that all of those things add up. And the beautiful part about them, especially in relation to other people, is you doing that one thing can change the course of your entire day. Say you give your partner a compliment, and then all the rest of the day, they're feeling more loving for you. The mood is a little bit lighter. Maybe they even, pick up dinner on the way home. You feel so grateful. You don't have to, cook it yourself or whatever. There's so many different dynamics depending on their relationship. But the great thing is that 1% doesn't take a lot of effort, but it can change the whole dynamic of a day and just make it feel a lot better. So that's what I think is really cool when we're talking about relationships and not just habits yourself. Like that 1%, you can feel and see the efforts. And even if you don't see it the first day, maybe, they don't pick up on it. If you keep at it, like if you keep trying to, do something in their love language, maybe if they're a gifts person, you just pick up something once a week for them from the store, you will eventually, they'll start to catch on, and it does help the dynamic of the relationship, I feel. So I think that's kind of the fun part about talking about this in relation to other people. Let's say that finances is where you are trying to become more of an expert. You are trying to save a little bit more cash or make the most of what you have. Maybe you set up auto draw for an extra $10 from each paycheck. It might not be something that you notice right away, the cost of a few coffees. But over time, that really, really adds up, especially if you keep that in that account, growing with interest for years, all of a sudden that $10 is going to be worth a lot more when you're 65, and you won't even have felt it every paycheck, but you'll feel it when you retire and you'll be so glad you did that 1% improvement. Maybe it's something like, if you don't even know where to begin in finances, you just watch a YouTube video once a week, a 10-minute video by some expert on finance on YouTube, or you read one page of a finance book a week or a day. That is going to always stick with you, and that you're going to make those associations the next time you learn something else. And before you know it, you're going to start to feel more and more confident, and your brain is physically going to grow in this area because you are indicating to it that this is something that you want to learn more about and you want it to pay attention to. It's so cool, right? How the body kind of works with you in this. If it's a personal development thing, maybe you listen to one podcast episode a week, or maybe you read 2 pages of a book before bed. It doesn't even have to be 10 pages. It can just be 1 page or 2 page, and that becomes your ritual before bed. Maybe you set up a meeting once a month or once a quarter with someone who you find on LinkedIn who is doing something that you want to learn more about. All of these things are going to enrich your life. If you do that once a quarter even, over 10 years, you have met with 40 different people. You've had an hour of their time to learn and absorb and understand what their mistakes were and digest their wisdom from one lunch. I just think that's so cool. Lastly, let's say maybe you are looking to, volunteer or give back more. Maybe you donate $20 a month to some cause. You can just put it on automatic withdrawal, and then you know that part of your finances are going to a cause you're really passionate about every single month, and you can feel good about that every time you see it in your bank statement. Maybe you just decide that you want to give to a homeless person. Every time you see one, you just always keep maybe a protein bar or an apple or something in your car so you can give them food, or you keep cash if that feels good to you, and you just always save that $5 bill for someone in need. Can you imagine how good you would feel just knowing that that's always with you, looking for the expectation of giving to another human? I think that's the cool part about giving, is it's just you get to then have that fun of looking for that experience and seeing all the ways that it starts to present itself to you. Maybe you even just tip, instead of tipping 20% or whatever when you go out to dinner, maybe you up it by a few percentage points. Maybe you tip 25%. I know we're talking about 1%, but, whatever, up it by 1%, whatever you want to do. But imagine how that could make a, person feel better, or that little bit maybe helps a waiter who has been struggling through COVID or anything. The whole point is that, yes, the big heroic efforts are great, but they're not what's essential to create change in your life and to create change physically in your body. And so really today, I'm just hoping you take this little pep talk and you feel like the next time you think, that glass of water isn't worth it, or the 10 minutes at the gym isn't worth it, or, the call to your parents or whatever, it's not enough. You only have 15 minutes to really just remember, that does make a difference. All of these things add up to a more enriching life and to moving you in the direction that you want to go in. And they're always worthwhile, even that 1%. Okay, so I hope you're not, feeling as hard on yourself. I hope you can really give yourself a pat on the back. If all you can do is the bare minimum 1% that day, that is awesome. And it's still moving you forward versus keeping you where you are, right? It's still letting you evolve and grow and become closer to that version of yourself that you want to become. All right, that's my message this week. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next Thursday. Thank you so much for listening in. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you share it on Instagram stories and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping get the message out. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Until next time, talk to you soon.